had about an hour and a half of conversations with.
We'll go ahead and start the work session here tonight. Carrie, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Pietzel?
Here.
Counselor Hamlin?
Present.
Counselor Smolin?
Yes.
Counselor Lee? Here. Counselor Exner?
Here.
Counselor Schultz? Here. Mayor Pulling?
Here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and tonight at the work session, we're going to start off with our agenda review, and then the main topic is the police department new revenue direction. As everyone here is aware, for your participation on the budget committee, the budget that was passed from the committee included new revenue, getting a new revenue stream to be able to fill the gap in our police budget. So looking at tonight's meeting, we have our consent agenda. Well, first, I guess, is there any changes? Anyone going to suggest any changes to the agenda tonight? Okay. In our consent agenda, we have some minutes from some previous council meetings and work sessions, including our budget committee meetings. I'm sure everybody's had a chance to review those. Were there any suggested changes to those agendas before we review them tonight?
The only one was my name is missing from April 9th.
From the night? Okay.
And Jeremy?
Oh, just the budget one. I thought the motion that I had said about the funding for the police officers, we find outside funding that wouldn't start until after July 1, and it said to find it and start on July 1. So, according to the minutes, I knew there would be no time to do it before, or it would be a struggle for staff to find it before July 1 to be implemented. So that was, but the minutes read that it would be found
Prior to?
Yeah, to be implemented on July 1. So that was just the correction.
Okay. Any others? All right, and then under new business, we have two items. One is awarding the contract for the 2019 pavement maintenance program. Going over to Knife River Corporation, was there any questions before that? One question I have on that, Jordan, and you guys can either have an answer tonight or another time, is it's on our bidding process. I know a lot of the time we automatically have to go with the low bid. Is that a part of our charter, or is that state law? What forces our hand to have to go with the low bid in some of these situations?
State law.
State law. Okay.
I do have a comment.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law works for Knife River, so I don't think it's a conflict of interest, but probably something I'll disclose.
Okay.
I don't receive any money because he works for Knife River, but he does.
They're able to be very competitive because they own their own aggregate source over in Bend.
Mm-hmm.
They're a very large company. They're everywhere.
Yes, they are. Yes. So it's one of those things. The reason I asked about it was, one of our competitor bidders being Turn and Sons, right? It's local business, local people that work there. They pay taxes in our city, and they missed out on the bid by about $7,000. So it's just, state statute.
We talked about that in the past, because we really have struggled over that.
Oh,
But as Mike points out, sometimes they are the winner.
That's right.
And sometimes they aren't. And a lot of times they are. So
$7,000 is $7,000.
anyway.
All right, next is, came up, this project in our meeting with those ODOT officials that came in several months ago, but this is for the intergovernmental agreement for the right-of-way services for the Vista Loop to Eyck pedestrian improvements. Is there going to be any questions or comments going into that tonight? Okay, and then we get into our reports. Then we'll wrap everything up with an executive session this evening. So with that, let's go ahead and start off our police department new revenue direction. Jordan?
Yeah, thank you. So here we are. I thought this would be a good opportunity as we go into the council's adoption of the budget, which we're targeting for June 3rd. Originally, we thought June 17th would be a good date, and I think we'll still do the supplemental budget for the current biennium on the 17th. But given that there is some changes from the budget committee, from the proposed budget now to the approved budget, and the topic tonight for this work session is getting your input on the mechanism for that outside revenue source for the police department. giving us some extra time just in case we need to renotice or anything like that, if the June 3rd date doesn't work out with the adoption, seems prudent. So we're gonna try to pull everything together and have the budget adoption on June 3rd. And then we had this meeting, which was a good opportunity to get some preliminary input from the council on that budget committee's recommendation for the outside revenue source. So Tyler and the chief are here to answer questions and review the options. Not a lot new from the meetings from March 4th and the 9th, and even if we go back a little bit further, we started talking about the deficit that was looming for the police department and some of the causes for that, and then we reviewed with the council the services our police department provides, and with what staff and how that compares to other communities. We provided some information on what other communities have dedicated revenue sources for police departments, and what those look like. And so there was a very robust conversation at the budget committee meeting in May, at the night of the approval, about alternatives, different sources of funding, how to make up that gap for the police department, and how to fund the officers. And ultimately, the budget committee approved on a 8-2 vote, 8-2 to include $370,000 of additional revenue from a new source of revenue for the police department in order to hire the patrol officer position. That would be the traffic officer starting after July 1st, and then July 2020 to be able to employ the lieutenant position to help with the administrative and management duties for the department. So what we wanted to do tonight is, again, review and answer questions, and hopefully narrow down to as much as possible the potential, that potential revenue source that, depending on the type of source and the type of funding, we'd need some lead time in implementing that, either by ordinance and noticing. So getting this early input from the council tonight would be helpful. So the options that we're presenting again, the public safety fee, and the different ways that we can structure that. We have a recommendation in the staff report for that fee. The right-of-way fee is another option that has come up before, and that's placing a 5% right-of-way fee on the city's own utilities to generate some additional general revenue that we can then allocate to the police department. There's also the local option levy route, which has some complications due to the delay in which when we receive that revenue. Of course, it goes to a public vote that we have to place on the ballot. So we're looking at least another year before we can do that, and that wouldn't achieve the budget committee's objective, to hire a new officer effective this next fiscal year. Might be something that council might want in the back of your minds as we move forward, though, in future bienniums. So on the topic of the public safety fee, I think it was on April 9th that we presented the different options and kind of ways to structure that fee. There's several different ways to do it, from the flat fee to the fee by customer class if we're looking at utility accounts and meter sizes and things like that. I think there was some interest in assessing a fee that in the most equitable manner as possible, and that would be by class, by single family, multifamily, or commercial industrial, but also charging each multifamily unit a fee. So if you're an apartment complex that has 100 units, you'd be charged a fee for each one of those units. Our target here was to come up with that, a fee schedule that would generate the $370,000 in revenue. So that essentially is how we did the backwards math to get at a number of what that monthly charge would be. And because of the way that the budget committee structured the additional officers, we could do a phase-in approach for the fee. So that first year could be less than the second. Then ongoing, you would have that second year fee would be the ongoing fee. But for the first year, we would need to place it, it's like $2 or something for a single family. So tonight, I think, we're trying to do is just, get some direction on that fee, not necessarily for the budget per se, when you adopt the budget, because, we'll probably just show in the budget, police department revenue, $370,000 more, or, whatever direction we get tonight. It's more of, being ready to implement that fee or whatever that revenue source is, either by ordinance or resolution or whatever we need to do. The council can change the budget once the budget committee does approve a budget, so you do have the ability to do that. Tonight wouldn't be the venue for that, but on June 3rd, if you, want to make changes per your conversation tonight, you're more than able to do that.
Is it really a change? Because as a budget, we said we would increase the budget by $300 and something thousand. We're not changing it, really, are we? That decision was already approved for and will be put forward to the council. So
Mhm.
really, it's not changed so much, right?
So once we, on June 3rd, present and have in front of you to adopt the budget, that's the budget committee's recommended approved budget, and that's gonna reflect $370,000 more than what the city manager's proposed budget was. Council can then say, no, we just need 350, or we want 400, or 0, revert it back. So you can change it after the budget committee's changed.
Yeah.
Yes, when does the amount that the school district pays us for the police officers change?
When, I have to pull the contract, but the 3%, when does that kick in? Is it on a fiscal year?
Yeah, it's on the fiscal year, I believe.
So probably July 1.
And then
It'll then in September, I believe.
Yeah, it might be in September, but, and then it'll be every year following that.
And then
And
what,
then when that contract is up, we'll renegotiate.
and what kind of increase is anticipated?
Well, I don't know if you were at the meeting before, maybe you weren't, but this came up quite a bit. My intention is I want the school district to pay for half of the cost. And we're getting, when I renegotiated, that was the idea, and we're getting closer to that every time, so. I think before, there was 30,000, it was just over 30,000.
It was 35 originally.
Originally, and I'm not sure who negotiated that was before me, but that obviously wasn't sufficient, right? So,
Right.
when they wanted the additional SRO, myself and the superintendent, we negotiated that fee as well, for both, not just one, obviously, so. And then that was the reason for the percentage increase each year, so.
I think it's 3% each year, right?
When, what's the duration of that contract?
2023? 2022 or 2023.
So that doesn't put much of a amount of money towards this, just
5-year contract.
pennies,
It's not the estimated contract replacement.
no.
Right, and I think those numbers were reflected in the budget that was in front of us, and then the shortfall.
Through June 30th, 2022.
And that contract is reflective in the police budget that was in front of us, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions? Carl?
Not so much a question, but a statement. Looking at our real estate numbers, I think conservatively, we're gonna see between 70 and 100 new houses every year. It's, last 16, there was 72, 17, there was 84, 18, 87, and we're on track to do that same sort of numbers this year too. So I think, I don't think it's very much money though. You're talking $3, $4, $2 this year, right? For residential house times
Per
12.
month, yeah.
So it's not a lot of money, but we're always increasing, so there'll be hopefully down the road by 23 maybe, we'll be able to get more dollars.
Well, honestly, Carl, that's why on this public safety fee, I've always kind of leaned towards it. It's because big picture, as we grow as a community, we have more residents come in. It's going to pump up the revenue that's generated specifically for the police department, for them to be able to cover those areas, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to reduce the numbers that we're talking about to collect, because they aren't significant, we're talking $7,000 or $8,000, so.
Lori?
Something.
What are the current numbers to staff both positions?
From day one.
Yep, from day one. So with your fee, you said it'd be about $2 for the first year.
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking at the second year?
$4.38.
$4.38?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
No,
read
you're
it.
fine, it's on
Page
page
4.
I apologize, I kind of looked at it myself. So, just in continuing discussion on that, think about, I called Clackamas County today to talk to an administrator, and they did not return my phone call, which is fine, it's Monday, they got a lot going on. I have heard via the rumor mill that Clackamas County Sheriff's is decreasing their staffing on the mountain to potentially 1 car. Chief, I don't know if you've heard anything about that, or can speak to
I
that
have.
at all?
I have, but I don't, it's not their intention to decrease
No.
the staff, but the reality is that's what they have for now, because
Sure.
they have so they do have 1 mountain car as opposed to usually they have a little bit, another one, usually they have 2 mountain cars, but they reduced that, so I think what you're getting at is the staffing from other agencies is lower as well, yeah.
That is where I was going, so, you know, in moving forward, because of that, you know, and like you said, I recognize that we don't want to announce the hours that we have 1 officer, but I do think the public has a right to know that when they take a look at the budget and wanna know why they're suddenly looking at a fee on their utilities. I think that's important transparency. I would want to know that as a taxpayer. You know, that we have done our due diligence going through this budget process, and we are wanting to staff this budget, and this is how we're going about that. So I'd like to at least consider, I recognize that it was, you know, I think it's a good idea to look at staffing that second position in the second year, but I would like us as a body to think about staffing both positions.
Sooner.
Yeah, sooner.
I would agree with that. That was honestly, I think you looked at me a little, during the budget committee meeting, and that was kind of my, you know, body language is, what are we waiting for a little bit? Yeah. Sure.
Just a question on the cost for the officer, $115,000 for the first officer there. Seems like a really low number when you add in PERS and benefits and everything else. Is that the accurate number? Cause it just seems maybe 20,000 shy.
That's step 1 or 2.
Step 2,
Okay.
with a family coverage on Blue Cross, which is it's 50-50 in the police department, so I picked Blue Cross in this example, with an intermediate certificate pay.
That's fine, I just didn't, I mean, we don't have to go into detail, I just wanted to make sure just that we hadn't, not put in a variable in there. Just making sure we had all the cost of that, because it seemed kind of low.
And that was just the traffic officer, right?
Well, yeah, but even when we talked about the next one, and the difference between it and the first one, it didn't seem like it was high enough even for the traffic officer, so I was just like,
The other one's a detective though, isn't it?
no, it's not detective, it's sergeant.
It's a lieutenant.
Lieutenant, it's still paid more, but it wasn't that,
I think maybe some of that was because a lot of what we were discussing, I remember at the other previous meeting was the median cost for what's your average cost for an officer should be more, because a lot of our people are on the higher end. We've had a lot of long-term employees, which is a good thing, but they're all at higher steps because of that. So I remember discussing that at one point, and that figure is obviously higher, but the entry level would be that.
Is there other costs associated besides just the pay of the officer, the police car cost, and, or we're gonna share?
Of course there is, yeah, but that's all budgeted, that's all budgeted under the for these things.
So you have a vehicle, don't you? 'Cause
We
this
do.
would be
We
fulfilling a
do.
position
Yeah, we
that
had
was
a-
previously staffed, not.
We had a vehicle for the officer that left, so there is a vehicle for
Okay.
the new hire, that's at the PD.
So I'm gonna go to you, Carl, but just to follow up, I think part of where he was going, maybe not, but where I'm going with the question is, it's even looking at the, 370,000 that we're trying to get a revenue stream for, is that sufficient for your department?
Well, it's enough to get what we're looking at here tonight, but for me, it's not sufficient. I mean, as a chief of police, I need to have my lieutenant back. Obviously, if this goes through, we'll take, If the $370,000 is what, we will make that work, in a perfect world for me, I would like to have the lieutenant's position this year, and implement that right away. The reason being is because, things that we've discussed some before, but the lieutenant's position is critical for me, and my sergeants, because my sergeants aren't able to get out on the road right now, supervise the troops, because they're doing more administrative work, helping me out, than they would normally do. Their primary function is to supervise the operations, and that means for them to be out on the road, supervising the patrol and operations group. Where now they have more of a load for them on administrative duties, such as internal investigations and things of that nature, which a lieutenant would take more of that. Also, our accreditation process, we get audits, things like that the lieutenant would help me with. I'm doing that all myself, and in turn passing some of that on them. Only because if I didn't, we wouldn't be able to get all that done.
Right.
I just wouldn't be able to do it.
So you prefer to bump up that lieutenant hiring from where it's currently recommended?
Yes.
Okay. Carl?
I'm not sure who brought it up, but last time we discussed this, one of the issues was just timing, being able to find a lieutenant before right away. So one of the reasons why I thought traffic cop now, lieutenant in next fiscal year was, or next half of the biennium, was that it was just gonna take a little while to get them. You know, it's the availability of lieutenants, whatever that might be. You think that by being able to say we want them now, if you could get them now?
Yeah, I have qualified people in my agency now that could be promoted.
So you still have to hire somebody else then? If you got somebody within, if you hired them?
Yes, I would have to hire an additional person.
So you're talking, okay, so you.
But what I would do is, I think this is what you're getting at, what I would do is, I would promote somebody within our department who's perfectly capable of that, and then would hire a patrol officer to start out just as the one from.
Of course, you might get somebody applied that would really be a super cop, I suppose, and we'll have to look at that, right? You couldn't just say within, I don't.
You
maybe
mean
not.
RoboCop or what?
I don't know.
No, he has to.
Highly qualified.
You have to.
Brenda's like,
I still got looking back when I was about 30 years old. I was
You've already done it.
If we can get RoboCop, I want RoboCop. Okay.
This is obviously a workshop.
Expensive, man.
Well,
We work 24 hours a day.
we do,
You have to pay PERS on RoboCop.
we have, we're constantly trying to do succession planning,
Mhm.
so, and a lot of our officers are interested in promoting, so we try to prepare for that, with training and things of that nature, getting them ready, if they have the desire to do that, because I believe that that creates a healthy work environment when officers are, I'm just using an example of the police department, but you could say anywhere, if people want to promote and advance in their careers, they have the opportunity to do so. And we also try to do that, so we want to keep our people. We've been successful so far. We have a lot of long-term employees. So, and it's nice for them to have an opportunity to do so. And if I have qualified people here, I would do that well before I would take somebody on the outside.
And let the record display that I think that the qualified police officers is really good. We see a lot of qualified people there, so.
Yes,
Just
we have good.
wondering if you'd have to go
And some
outside.
qualified people to do that job.
So anyway, the bottom line is you could hire that lieutenant and that traffic cop just like within the next few months.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the hiring process and that part of it is just kind of out of the scope of this, just when he should be able to hire the best qualified when he has the time to hire the best qualified to do that, whether or not we implement a fee and start the money coming in. If it takes a month or it takes 3 months to get that right person coming, because who knows what the pool will be like, that is kind of beyond our scope of putting this in place, so, because RoboCop's hard to find. But I really do like the idea, and thank you for bringing it up in your comments there, Carlo, was the ongoing as the city grows compared to other models that we're looking at, because that new house brings in that much more, and it has that kind of a great correlation there. And I think as our city grows, and we're between the second and fifth fastest in the world, which reporters reporting us, but we want to do one. No, no,
I wanna be like 20.
No, but the point being is that, though, you know, as new houses come in, that will help with sustaining that. Now, whether we, and whatever, whereas some of the other models, we may have ups and downs, in that because of some of the way it's, built. So, the question, I guess, is where do we?
Yeah, I was gonna start to direct conversation that way, is looking at some of the options in front of us. You know, where my gut tells me is we're going towards the direction of a public safety fee. Definitely not, probably towards a levy, because there's recreational district, there's a lot of different things we're looking at doing ballot-wise, right? So if you're looking at the public safety fee structure, right-of-way fee, what are the thoughts on what's in front of us here tonight, Ken? And then I'll put that.
It seems like it would be more reasonable just to start out with the 438 and instead of trying to give the public one fee and then coming back with the second one. That seems ingenuous.
I think.
Yeah, and I like the public safety fee versus the right of way. I just think it needs to be more clear.
It's dedicated that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you know what you're getting, it's not enough.
I feel like that's important.
Carl?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple things. One is, yeah, I think we should, that's pulled up right away. And the public safety fee should be done that. The only question I had was, is 438 June 1st, I guess, or after June, July,
After July.
whatever date that is, would that be the number, or are we talking someplace between the $1.98 and the 438 to put them both in?
I would be a little careful in having an amount set tonight. These are still, not super rough, but they're still an estimate. They're close to where we'll land. But is it 439? Is it 428?
Change the question to then something between 4 and 4.4 and $2. Is it that way, or would it be 4 and something?
Probably 4 and something. If you're looking at a structure this way, and one of the things we need to do is vet the multifamily numbers. That we need somebody to actually go walking around the city and count every unit to get a more accurate number on that. I mean, our intention would be to get as close as possible, but achieve that revenue number, which in this case would be the full $255,000 year 1 and year 2. So we'd start off July, 2nd, or whatever that is, at $4.40 or whatever that number ends up being. But that, that would play out through, like, we'll bring that back for the budgeted option, and have that information, and then once the budget's adopted and through the ordinance process for establishing the fee.
All right.
Well, I was just gonna say, obviously, in favor of the public safety fee. And then I think if we combine that moving forward with hopefully increased traffic ticket revenue, granted that we don't want to, we don't want pulling people over just to make money, but we are gonna get increased revenue. And then if we can, in 2022, move forward with that school district contracts and bridging that gap. Obviously, there'll be a lot more revenue in your budget moving forward, so just some things to think about.
Yeah, so we did this, before I was on council, I think the year before, or something with the sewer treatment plant. How does that compare? I never saw the formula with the sewer, stormwater. The stormwater free, we implemented that on everyone's there. So in comparison with single family, I know the dollar amounts aren't the same, but did we break the multifamily out different than housing and commercial industrial? Do they pay $3?
It's a residential equivalent number, right, for stormwater?
Just gonna pull it up really quick before I open my mouth, because I don't have it.
No. Anyway, it was just a
Yeah,
simple,
you're right.
because this is a model that has been used before in the city, and so should we be duplicating it, or did we learn something from that model that we should adjust for this model because X, Y, Z? We may not have the historical background in the office knowledge of.
Then, on commercial industrial, what are we defining that as? You know, for example, I mean, I know obviously you have your doorfront businesses and you have your industrial areas, but I'll use, if you don't mind, I'll use your wife as an example.
Those
Is-
piano students.
Yeah, I mean,
They're a rowdy bunch.
right, as someone who started up their own, you know, piano lesson company, are they subject to the same, you know, 1322?
I don't think
commercial
home-based
fee?
businesses would, fall under that classification.
Only if they had their utilities separate would that be reflected in this calculation. These numbers are pulled directly off our utility billing register from, I believe, the month of February when we were first putting together some of these models. So, you know, in the event that your wife has Sandy Net in the business name and your water bill is in your you know, family name, actually this was just off meters, so that wouldn't even be in
So
that
it's not even off
scenario.
of zoning then?
This is strictly off of the number of dwelling units tied to a meter. And zoning, you know, everything in the commercial industrial area falls into a commercial industrial rate code.
Except
So,
for those houses in the commercial zone.
Yeah, right.
See,
I
when-
think those are still, I mean, if it's a single family dwelling that's living in that, or if it's a family that's living in that dwelling, and not a business, I believe they're still categorized as a single family in that scenario. A single family,
Pleasant Street is for making sense.
Yes.
yeah.
And then we're going per unit on these, so it doesn't matter how, we're not looking at their meters and how much.
No consumption
Nothing
is
for
driving it.
consumption,
It's-
nothing like
And really, the only reason why we need to look at units, in this, you know, proposal is that most of our multifamily, complexes have one water meter that feeds 4 apartments, 2 duplexes, 18 apartment units, so by looking at the dwelling, you can capture, you know, a better population.
that. All right.
Is there any legal issues, and just thinking about how Portland got into trouble with using their water fund to build houses and such, that we're taking a utility fee and adding a public safety issue to it?
This isn't
Question, Councilor.
tied to water at all. I mean, this is just, this is a public safety fee that would appear on your utility bill, just as, you know, people have Sandy Net listed on there, you now have a public safety fee as a separate line on your utility bill. Stormwater, yeah. You know, one advantage of having a fee is the council does have ownership over setting that fee. So, you know, on an annual basis, through the budget process, you know, whatever the council chooses, you can review that fee, you know, really whenever, but, you know, we'd probably, group it with other, you know, our master fees and charges schedules. When we do updates of other fees, we can, look at this one, or through the budget process. You know, I'm sure that will be a topic for the next, you know, few cycles of where are we at with the fee, how is it, you know, doing in relation to funding those positions, and, you know, what's the growth, and, you know, how many new homes, and, you know, the revenue. So it'd be clear having that separate line within the police department budget of that revenue, and we'll label it as such, and you'll be able to track that over time. But just wanted to throw that out there that, you know, the council does, you know, through resolution can adjust this fee up or down, you know, year to year, depending on what the needs are.
And then my understanding, just so we're clear, because something that Lori said earlier, we're still after this, and we hire those 2 positions, I mean, we would still be short about 1 officer as far as having 2 officers on every shift throughout the day. Is that
All the
correct?
time, yes, for 24/7.
One short.
But that doesn't mean that we're not working with our schedule to still try to, there's some scheduling options that we're still working on at the PD. It's hard to, yeah, of course, we're bound by CBA in certain, scheduling options that we can do. But we are working with our officers on some different scheduling options that would, with what we're trying to do here, we would be, real close to getting there, so. And we've been adjusting our schedules, I think I mentioned this to council too before. We've been adjusting our scheduling as far as, when one shift starts and the other ends, to try to minimize that gap already, so. And that's been pretty successful too, so.
Questions, comments?
Except just to clarify, how does that affect staffing when you have guys on vacation or people calling in sick?
Well, somebody fills in for them. So, how it affects us is overtime cost in the end.
Right.
So, because when somebody does, call in sick or is on vacation, that position has to be filled.
Sure.
So,
So my point is that you'd like to get to that
Yeah.
sooner than later.
yeah, sooner than later, it would be nice. And that's more prevalent in the summer months, and things of that nature. Families are on vacation, things like that, so. It's a little difficult at those times, but we do our best to minimize it, of course.
Well, it looks like, we're looking to give staff direction tonight. So we're not taking a vote or anything implementing this, but this obviously, goes hand in hand with some of the revenue decisions we're making over the next couple of weeks. What I would ask for is if there's any hesitancy or objections to giving direction to staff to continue on this way, to please, maybe speak now and address those concerns.
So are we going to direct staff to look at bringing both officers on shortly?
Yeah, so let me clarify what I'm asking, right, so I think the direction that I see us going for this conversation is to, instead of kind of, phasing it, to go ahead and start with the 438, fee, or thereabouts, knowing that these are estimates for the single family, multifamily, and the 1322 thereabouts for the commercial, industrial, and to go ahead and, maybe move that recommendation that came from our budget committee into a little bit more of a quicker action and meet one of Chief Roberts kind of asked to go ahead and hire that. So that's the direction I see from our conversation that's going, but I don't want to speak for the group if that's not accurate. Bethany?
I'd say that's accurate for me. One thing I would like us to look into a bit, and I assume this is a bigger thing than, for folks that are gonna have a hard time paying fees, maybe not this one, but the next one, if we could start looking into if there's some sort of something we can do, set up a fund to help that or something, I don't know what that looks like.
For hardships.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
I would like us to have at least preliminary looking into something like this. I know Clackamas County has stuff, and maybe all it is that we direct them there or something, but I would like us to be aware of what is available and if there's something more that we can do as a city as well.
It's money though, either way,
Right.
we have to budget for the money that we're gonna offer for hardship, so it's kinda,
Our software also has a donation, option or module, for lack of a better term, too. So once we get further down this road, I'm planning on doing some research on what our current software can provide, that we just haven't turned on or utilized yet because we haven't needed to. But I didn't want to put the cart before the horse and spend a lot of time doing research if we weren't
And I'm
going this
gonna,
direction.
good to hear, Jan, one thing I would highlight though is in addition to this public safety fee, we all are aware of wastewater and everything that's coming down the pipe and why that's important. Jan and then Mark.
Well, I was just going to ask if we already had that kind of a hardship fee for the water system already, or we haven't ever had that at all.
Utility. Councilor Hamlin brings up a good point though, and I think it's a good opportunity right now with, we have a consultant on board doing our rate model, so we can start building that in, but you have to capture that revenue somewhere. So if you're gonna do assistance for, lower income or whatever that threshold is, or seniors on fixed incomes and stuff, you have to make up that revenue in other ways.
I guess that's what I'm saying is I'd like us to look into
Yeah,
if there's something.
Robin Hood model.
Maybe have to
yeah,
set
and
standards.
cities are mixed, honestly, some have them and some have the policy that,
Sure.
water is water.
And maybe that's what we'll do, I just,
RoboCop and Robin Hood. That's awesome. I like that. It's a good meeting. John, Lori.
No, good, she basically asked what I was going to.
I wonder too, cause if this fee is one where it's pretty set, the other fee that they're charged, or one of the other fees is water usage. And if we could spend some time trying to coach people on how they might be able to reduce what that fee is, cause it's a consumable and it decreases our cost potentially if they use less. And that could actually save them money, where this one, there's not really an opportunity to save money. So if we might actually look at if we're trying to save folks money, that it might be through that as a resource instead.
but then that's money we lose.
But it's also money we don't spend though, too. So if we're not delivering the service, it's not a consumable at that point. So, and just to, I guess as I'm hearing this conversation, I haven't spoken up too much because I'm kind of confused on where we're at right now versus we had an 8-2 vote and about a 45-minute deliberation on doing a pause. So I would have loved having this conversation when we had our budget meeting. The intent on why to stagger was to not hit everybody in our community with a more than 120%, 130% increase in the fee from year 1 to year 2. So, I don't know, it surprises me to have an 8-2 vote in approval, 45-minute deliberation, and then nearly everybody's at the, let's fill them both. And my concern is not so much for the police, but my concern's for every other department in the city that's taking cuts and is not getting the same opportunity to sit up here and request additional resources. So I think, I just don't wanna lose sight of that, cause I can see us already feeding into another budget cycle, we need another police officer, and everybody else has to give, or our community has to give more money to pay for it too.
Carl?
As one of those who voted against that particular plan, it was not the amount of money that I was voting against, it was how we went about getting it. So for me, we're not across that line again. And also, I'm in favor of this now. We need to move forward, go forward. We need this. This is the right thing to do. Again, my concern before was not about how much, it was more about where it came from. So,
Yeah,
I don't know what
I'm more concerned with the
Catherine
yes votes that approved the motion to do a delay on the hire. So 8 people voted yes, 2 people voted
Well,
no.
I think part of that, I'll just speak, I'm one of those yes votes, that was the direction the room was going. But at that time, and that was the motion that was made, and I was also quite aware that we would have other opportunities that were going to be coming up in front of us. The room, though, with that motion, was all about finding these positions. So whether or not we were going to have to wait a couple of months to fill it, or we were going to do it right away, the yeses in that room is that we need to more adequately fund our police department, and the timing didn't worry me as much as making sure that we had a consensus that we needed to do that, and we're there, that's where we are this evening. I'd also want to address the other things. One is with the other departments, a lot of this, to me, is about priorities. And public safety, I can't imagine a priority that's above public safety that we offer to our residents here in Sandy. And it was also the department that had the biggest gap in funding, and we all knew that we were going to have to address it. We had a vote that we needed to find more revenue, so that's what brought us here today, was to have that conversation. But I hear what you're saying. I just wanted to address why.
Well, I'd
why
say
it was where
you
it
had the
was.
votes to pass a different motion, is my point. So it didn't have to be a let's change it later type of vote. You had the votes to pass the motion to hire both starting July 1. So it's confusing and concerning to me that we go about it that way. That's all I'll say.
So this, apology, but this would probably need to be rehashed a little bit on June 3rd, because you can't make the changes to the budget right now. So you're actually gonna see, the cover page to the proposed budget, which is the approved budget, which will reflect the 370,000. And the council will officially have to make that change, as you conduct a public hearing on your adoption of the budget. So if it sounds like you're heading towards 560,000 or 70,000, whatever that number is, so that, that someone would have to propose that change at the council level on June 3rd to make that change at the public hearing.
Would that be after we implement, so the change to the budget would happen after we voted to put something in place? Because then you would have to amend the budget. Doing it seems like it's premature to amend it before we've even adopted what we're gonna potentially adopt.
I don't think we're going to, right? We're not amending anything until we have that budget, till we meet.
That's right, that's what I'm saying, is we need to adopt the budget that was approved, but then wouldn't it come back to when we
No.
decide on the revenue source, we then amend the budget when that revenue source has been, whatever that revenue source has been adopted. Does that make sense? Because
We'll present a budget with the assumption that the council's gonna adopt adopt a budget either with the revenue source that's gonna generate 370,000 or more to hire both officers immediately or whatever. So we'll present the budget committee's approved budget. You can then make changes to that budget, to reflect the direction that it sounds like you're heading tonight, and then that becomes your adopted budget. So you don't need to amend the budget afterwards.
It just sounds like if we adopt that and then let's just say we didn't change anything, then our budget would be off by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why
I
it
mean,
seems like it's out of order, that's all.
Well, I think we're trying to be as by the book as possible, but I think legally one thing that can happen here is you can just approve or adopt the budget committee's budget, but then implement a higher fee. So the budget shows 370,000 in revenue, and we can bring in more than that if the council decides later to increase that fee or something, you know. But I think that's getting away from the intent of what we heard at the budget committee level and everything. So I'm trying to make it as clear as possible, but it's a little confusing.
I understand, we were gonna find the funds for that, so that's.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And not to go back on it, I think in addition, I think there was a misunderstanding as to when Chief Roberts was gonna be able to hire that position, and accumulating enough revenue between now and when he was gonna be able to hire that position, make it happen as well, and I think we learned something different tonight on that.
I think the chief's, depending on how things go
Yeah.
over the next couple of weeks, is ready to make a job offer to someone. We went through an entire recruitment process for a patrol officer until that was put on hold, I think after the April 9th meeting, when the direction that we received from council was to present a budget that did not have any increases or any public safety fee in it. So, just from a movement standpoint, things can move relatively quickly once staff has the direction and there's an adopted budget and a funding source kind of, progressing.
What is the time from when we put in a fee for there to be an appeal, in case there is one? I'd hate to hire someone and then have an appeal and then that'd be gone and then not be able to fund that, right?
What's the notice for the ordinance?
So it doesn't go into effect, until
Yeah.
30 days after it's been approved,
30 days after it's
Right.
been approved.
but it can be appealed prior to that. That's what, I just worry about
Yeah,
that, because
yeah.
we go, offer
Going
and
to hire
hire
an
someone,
officer,
and, but
right.
yet then it's, because it hasn't been, just like when we pass bonds, we don't go out and start buying stuff prior to that 30 days.
I don't know if a council adopted by ordinance fee could be appealed.
Or
That's
to
it.
the ballot, or whatever.
We can be revolved.
I'm asking a question because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can repeal a fee, I don't know.
Carl?
I'm not sure, this isn't overstating the obvious, but this is good news. This is stuff that we should be excited about. I mean, when I talk to people on the internet, talk to people downtown, they want those police officers on the ground doing their work. Maybe there'll be
They
a
just
few
don't
out
wanna
there.
pay for it. So they'll be happy until they get a bill.
We all know the names of the 2 or 3% of the people that would complain about $1 a month increase. But I think in all of this is a great thing that happened. This is something
It's
we
very
really
exciting.
want to have. The city of Maine wants this.
Well, we can point right back to what it's like.
I would suppose that we could have some kind of a, not really a press release, but an explanation that goes out with the bill as to why this is necessary.
And we can absolutely include something in the water bill newsletter,
Mhm.
or a link to something that's, more lengthy. There's only so much space on the back of that bill,
Right.
so depending on what that looks like, you can absolutely, or do an insert and just, pay a little bit of money and have an additional insert, with all the paper.
I think that'd be outstanding.
Mhm.
And blue. All right, any more questions, comments? I'll close the work session. All right, closing. All right, please join me in standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody. Carrie, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Pizza.
Here.
Counselor Smallwood.
Here.
Counselor Hanlon.
Here.
Counselor Lee.
Here.
Counselor Exner.
Here.
Counselor Schultz. Here. Mayor.
Here. All right, pretty, I guess I would say easy council meeting here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see. I hope I knock on wood. Do the quick agenda review. I'll call for changes to the agenda. We have our consent agenda, which has several of our work sessions and council meeting minutes on there. Under new business, we'll be discussing awarding the contract for the 2019 pavement maintenance program. And we'll also be going over our intergovernmental agreement for the right-of-way services for the US 26 Vista Loop 10 Eyck Pedestrian improvements. After that, we'll do our report for the city manager, our committee and council reports, and we'll adjourn and have an executive session afterwards. So with that, I'm going to call for any changes to the agenda. Seeing none, I will move to public comment. This is for items, for anything. Any items on the agenda or not on the agenda for public comment. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I would so move.
No second.
I have a motion from Counselor Lee, a second from Counselor Exner. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to new business for the awarding the contract 2019 pavement maintenance program. Mike Walker.
Yeah, this is something we do every year. We actually have a contract that we did last October that wasn't able to be completed, so we're actually doing the 2018 and the 2019 pavement maintenance projects, all in 2019. So anyway, we received, I think 4 bids for Schedule B. Oh no, Schedule A, and 3 for Schedule B. And those are tabulated on the recommendation letter in your packet. And the low bid for the Schedule A, the asphalt overlays, was Knight River Corp. The low bid for Schedule B, the slurry seal, was Intermountain Slurry Seal. We've worked with both of these companies before on these types of projects, and we've always been pleased with their work.
All right, any questions?
Comment,
I'm sorry, sir.
I have a brother-in-law that works as one of their mid-level managers for Knife River. I don't have any conflict of interest in that area. I won't receive any compensation or any kind of income from that, but just for disclosure.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Or a question? Questions? Do I have a motion?
I'm looking for the,
Looking for it as well.
where is the thing at?
Yeah, I don't see it.
I will move to award Schedule A to Knife River Corporation and Schedule B to Intermountain Slurry Seal.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Counselor Schultz, a second by Council President Peatsold. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on. 11.2, Intergovernmental Agreement for the Right-Way Services, US 26 Vista Loop to 10 Eyck Pedestrian Improvements.
This is a contract, this is for ODOT. We're actually using a consultant to identify and acquire the right-of-way on behalf of ODOT. But since there's so many federal regulations involved with this kind of process, ODOT, we have to pay ODOT to oversee the consultant's work. And then, and then ODOT actually has to make the offer, and they will make the payments to the property owners. So we have to deposit those funds with ODOT prior to letting a contract. And so that the IGA kind of works out all the details on how we provide those funds to ODOT and what they're going to spend on oversight of the consultant's work.
Great. Any questions? Counselor Exner?
And there is absolutely no extra money that we're paying ODOT, is that correct? Other than what we agreed to here, was that a while back,
No, this all fits underneath the number of the last, I think that was in September when the
whatever that
council
was, right?
did authorize some additional spending. However, the way this project is going, we've gotten the proposals back from the engineering consultants. We may be back to get a decision point with the city council on whether to proceed with the project or contribute extra funds.
Do you know what some of the reasons for the upgrade, I don't want details specific, but is it because they're coming across some difficulties in the?
No, I think it's unique
Structure.
to the way that ODOT delivers projects. You know, they have a very top-heavy, cumbersome, it's like a 73-page scope of work for this. And it's just mind-boggling. And, you know, most of it's their money. Well, most of it was their money, and we had a small contribution. Now our contribution is growing, so it's just the way they, you know, manage projects. They have a way to do it, and it works. They don't vary it for a $2 million project. It's the same as a $175 million project. It's the same process and the same amount of overhead.
Any other questions?
Hold my mouth.
All right, I'm looking for a motion. The motion would be to authorize the city manager to sign the IJ on behalf of the city.
Yeah. I'll make said motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Counselor Schultz, a second by Counselor Lee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Wheeler, report for the city manager.
So I want to take the opportunity to nail down something that's coming up right around the corner. That's our tours of the wastewater treatment facilities this week and next week. Thanks to Mike and the team from Murray Smith for organizing these. I think this is a good opportunity to see what we're looking at for the preferred alternative. First, looking at our current facility, and then looking at the potential outfall location, and also the future site of the MBR plant that would be constructed on the city site. So I did want to get an accurate head count so we can make sure that we can feed everyone that can make it. I know there's a couple members from the Watershed Council that would like to join us, and that's great. We've rented a van to be able to pull this off and get as many folks in the van as possible. I think that's probably more important for the next week when we're going to be traveling over to the west side. But Thursday, we'll leave here at 9 o'clock, so if we can assemble at City Hall a little bit before that, that'll be great. Looks like the weather may be turning a little bit better for Thursday, which would be good for the outfall. Sorry, no rafting in the plans.
Come on, man. A good city manager would have done that.
Whoa.
Maybe in the summer. There's a little bit in, you know, we have those 80, 90
I'm looking
degrees.
more for the wine tours in Dundee.
That's right, yeah, here we go.
Jordan, I will not be able to be there
Okay.
Thursday.
And I'm a hard pass on the, because I have to work,
Yeah.
Sure.
of course.
Right.
I will be there.
Yeah.
That should be.
Down there.
I'll be there.
I think I mentioned to you I couldn't because of the county budget committee.
Yeah. Thank you. I think it'll be worthwhile, and maybe as this project progresses, we'll have future opportunities. And you know, if you ever do want to see the water treatment plant or some of these sites, you know, let us know. We're happy to take you down there. You know, we did have a meeting with DEQ last week as part of, I think they call them Kaizen meetings, and it's a chance for all agencies to either be on the phone or be in the same room, and like a pre-application conference for development applications. This was an opportunity to sort of air out any issues and have these agencies ask questions. I think the count was 8 or 9 permits as part of just the outfall. So I think I said in my report last week that the permitting alone is a major project, let alone, you know, the infrastructure. And so, you know, there's a number of issues. I think there's still a strong interest in, you know, studying alternatives, looking at, you know, some sustainable reuses of that MBR water, exploring other places to do the outfall even, are ideas that we need to continue to look at. So I think, it was useful. It's good to continue this conversation where, this obviously is an important project for DEQ, not just the city, and also the watershed group. So, there is interest at the agency level, there's interest at, the city staff level and the council level, and as, we start working on the rate structure and our communications is gonna certainly ramp up here as we get closer to, the actual impacts of, putting this project into place. And so I did mention the tours next week. That's going to be on Wednesday, a similar time frame, except for we're going to be in the van a lot longer, drive over to Dundee and tour the sites over there, Dundee and Forest Grove, and that will give us an opportunity to see some of this new technology, and then also some other interesting different ways that the wastewater is being treated with the wetlands complex there in Fern Hill. So I think this will be useful, so we have these images in our mind as we're talking about the preferred alternative for assistance. And then something that came up that apparently in the works for a little while with the branding. And I don't, some of the folks that were on council last year, I think this was an idea that came up with the branding, and that's the signage for downtown, and as folks come into the Sandy, switching over those signs to reflect the new brand. And so the company the architect that did the current downtown signs was asked to draw up some options for applying the new brand. So basically using the same base and just putting in the new branded logo. Just kind of bringing this to the council to see if you have an opinion. It's about $4,000 a sign. We have signs there currently, so this isn't like a, something that is missing from the city currently, but it is nice to kind of bring things within, the same brand as the city. I know there's been different comments about slogans and mottos and, different opinions on that. But I think there is some value in having a consistent brand throughout the city. Whether that has to happen immediately or over time is, sort of things that we can, decisions we can make as we go along. But, for the most part, a lot of our city vehicles and, other signage kind of reflects the new brand. But
So this is where the welcoming fountain is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Carl?
We're thinking urban renewal dollars, or are we talking general fund dollars?
This could be urban renewal. It's within the urban renewal district.
Okay, good.
Councilor Lee?
Yes, I've had a couple people ask me why we're so much into branding and we have that old brown sign out there. So I think it might be a good idea.
Yeah, I am not enamored with the slogan. And I would just, I don't know, this is a personal thing, but if we're going to have the sign, I'd love to just, welcome to downtown Sandy, and it just saying that is mighty fine by me.
I'll second that motion.
Like it or not, it's been voted on, I guess. And, I think I have had some comments when I first saw it, but I think we need to make it with the branding agreement. And is it $4,000 even with the sign already in place? Or
I think so. The
it's
sign.
like $8,000.
I think Kelly told me it was like 15,000 a sign or something like that when they were first put in.
Really?
Yeah,
But-
so it's got that base and everything, but this is just that was an estimate. So
In a response, I would just say change of the slogan does not change all the hard, the logo's the hard part. A change in a slogan does not back up all of the work and effort that has happened in this rebranding effort.
And we didn't vote to put that on signs. We just voted to authorize the 75,000, and then we heard the recommendations from the committee and decided to move forward with the change in branding. But we just approved a $75,000 expenditure.
No, but we had agreed with the branding though, so it is our brand now, so.
But we didn't say we have to use it on everything. I mean, we didn't vote to say everything that we do. We never said everything that we do will have the brand on it, or have the logo or the slogan on there. So we didn't get down to that level of specificity, so I'm fine with it not being on there.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to join the dark side?
Well,
I'm with the guy with the mohawk.
Big mohawk too.
I feel like I'm in a town a little west of us. Here.
Yeah.
So, no, you know, haven't been, we did authorize the money to go after the brand, and then it was just kind of told us to us what the brand was going to be. So it wasn't all in, I may have some issues with the thing personally, but one thing, regardless of what the brand is, what it's at, I think there can be a little bit of confusion, like Jan was mentioning there, hey, why have we done this?
Mm-hmm.
Whether we like it or not, it does bring a little bit of freshness, and says just in that, regardless of what the sign says on it, the freshness that we are keeping up with the times. I mean, the color, the things we're doing, whatever. It's a fresh new sign. Now, you know, it's not the 17,000 you said before or whatever, because the base is already there. We're using it already. In that aspect of it, though, I think there's some value to our community and to Sandy as a brand, as we market ourselves for economic development type things. It shows, you know, we have a new high school, that type of thing. So I'll just give that other perspective from it. So
I like the dark blue one.
Yeah.
That'd be my favorite out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go with Gateway to Mount Hood underneath it personally.
I agree, blues probably.
Well, you wouldn't have to have all of this wording underneath.
Yeah, it could just be the welcome to downtown.
You can't read it anyway, it's too small.
We have the logo without the
Yeah,
text.
I like that too.
Of course, the new traffic cop's gonna keep the speed down,
Four.
so they'll be
I
on
like
four
that.
now.
We got 4 people.
I like the
We got
blue.
5.
Take the weird
And,
innovation meets elevation up. Okay.
I know we're gonna talk about the Arts Commission at the next meeting, but, you know, something that, I'm sort of interested in is, as I look at signage, it's not just coming into downtown Sandy, but actually coming into the city of Sandy. I know the boundary for the or the eastern part of downtown is close to the eastern part of the city, but there's still room there. And also, as you come in, you know, from the west, it'd be nice to have a monument sign and some kind of gateway.
Sure.
We did have one.
Yeah,
Kinda.
Yeah. So as I look at signs, I'm like, it's great downtown Sandy, but what about Sandy itself? As you come into town?
I agree with
Maybe
you.
that's
Kinda
something
like when
that
you're
the
coming
Arts
into
Commission
Phoenix.
can
It's like 30
look
miles
at.
away from downtown
And
Phoenix.
maybe this is a project too, you know, if we're looking at signage, just get that fountain working again too, and that came up during the budget process.
No,
well,
so-
at the very least, it would make the senior pranks a lot easier to come up with.
Well, thank you for your time. It's helpful.
The only thing I just add is just as we're talking about a fee in our workshop, and then we're making improvements on signs and potentially fixing a fountain, just to be cognizant of what that speaks to for our community and our residents. So if we're implementing a fee and then we're doing other fixes, they don't know where the pots of money come from. They don't know what urban renewal necessarily is and how it can fund certain projects, and it isn't necessarily the reason why we're using this other money to pay for police. So I think just to be cognizant of that, maybe timing out projects to where it doesn't look like we hit the jackpot.
Brittany will tell them.
Yeah.
She's already right now tweeting it out.
Live tweeting that, but
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
That's the end of the report?
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Jordan. Appreciate it. All right. So now we're on to counselor committee and counselor reports. We'll start over with you, Counselor Schultz.
The library board meeting beginning of this month, they elected members to chair, vice chair, and secretary for the upcoming year, finished clearing up the redundancies in their handbook. It sounds like they're gonna take a little bit of a break over this summer and then reconvene. Just wanted to give a shout out to the library. I am a very heavy library user, and I still see like new stuff all the time. I feel like they just do such a great job of their programming and services that are available for everyone. Even though I've been attending a long time, I feel like I still learn new stuff all the time about what they do there. It's pretty great. But, yeah, that's about it.
Great, thank you. Counselor Exner.
Couple things, go with the Art Commission for the moment. We did meet last Wednesday. They're really charged up about this chalk art contest coming up the week before Mountain Festival. And we've got somewhere in the order of 20 applicants already, mostly in the students category. I think if there only one or two adults so far. So we're getting that kind of organized, and it's just really, I think they're really moving along in that area. They've got a lot of the starting work, been connecting with a lot of the different staff and city. We had to get a permit, I believe, to make sure that the thing was correct, and the meeting with the chief here next few days to understand what all we need to do that way. So very exciting that way. In one regard, I think it's June 3rd that we're talking about having kind of a workshop art conversation, and I would encourage you as a council to think about what kind of things we would like to see them be directed at the next time frame. And that's really something they're really interested in doing. They would like to see a little more direction in that area. Unfortunately, I believe, Mayor, we've got a applicant or a commissioner that has submitted their resignation because of timing. So I don't know, maybe you could respond. Are we headed for advertising and that kind of thing?
Yeah, was there confusion? No, it's not formal resignation, that's what I thought. There was,
Oh, it's not?
Not quite, yeah.
Okay, I forwarded you the email though, right? Okay.
Yeah. There was a question about, it was sort of a potential resignation depending on some health issues and things like that. So
Okay.
Waiting for
Okay.
some more results before a final determination.
Oh, okay, all right.
Informative.
Excuse me, I thought it was decided. All right. Moving on, I have a abandoned trailer in front of my house the last week and a half, and it's garnered all kinds of interest. The people across the street from me, Avamere, came over and knocked on my door and wanted to know what I was doing with putting junk in my front yard. So
I've been
they
thinking.
actually stole a couple of blocks from their walkway to support the thing and keep it from rolling out into the street. Not a very fun type of conversation, but on the other hand,
So it was yours.
it was not mine.
adopted it.
I want to repeat that, too, very strong, there's a lot of junk in it. Conversations with Code Enforcement Officer Kevin Moody, I've been very pleased with his conversations. He's been tracking down the person who owns this. I guess we've had some struggles finding that person, but
We figured it out.
you got it figured out? Okay. I appreciate, though, I have to say, Officer Moody has responded back every time I connected with him, and I have done this several times in the past week and a half, and so appreciate his work in getting that all taken care of. You just don't have to have that kind of stuff on the main road. There was a van that was there too for over a week and a half, and I guess it's got moved. I'm not sure if Officer Moody put the pressure on there, or they finally decided to move it out of the way, but appreciate that too.
And they left their trailer behind.
I don't think the two of them are connected.
They're not.
They're not, okay. I have a question for City Manager. Downtown, beautiful flowers. I love the hanging flowers that's going on. Why don't we do this on the west end of town, not just the downtown portion? I know there's,
The hanging baskets?
Hanging
or the-
baskets,
or the
right.
planters?
because we've got, the urban renewal boundary is clear down into Fred Meyer's, and we have lots of the telephone poles or whatever it might be that we could use to hang those flowers. Why don't we do that the entire length? Do you know?
Brackets on, down there, or is it a cost?
I don't think it's ever come up, but we would have to have an agreement with the old owners of those facilities in a bracket, and all sorts of engineering needs to be submitted.
I would say, thank you for looking into it for me. It's just so pretty, and it's just so well done, and everybody compliments, and the flowers came up this past week. I guess we're gonna do the pots as well here pretty soon, and just everybody's saying how wonderful it is. It'd be a great opportunity to see it go on, right on down through to the other part of the city. So, thanks for that. In regards to the sign that we were talking about, there's a couple of islands that are, one's in front of the John L. Scott building, It's kind of our safety island, whatever it is, for people crossing from University over to the transit center. And then there's the other one out there by the Forest Service. There's that long, narrow thing. They really look shaggy. If there's any way we could figure out a way to put something in there that, we've got such a nice looking part of the downtown. Here we got these two islands that have weeds, and some of the plants that are in there are overgrown. Some of them are drooling over the sides of the curb. And if there's any way we could freshen that up, that would surely be something that would just make downtown Sandy is working its way towards being so nice. Those kind of look out of place by a bunch. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilor Lee.
Yes. I didn't go to the C4 meeting. It turned out to be a stag meeting because all of the women who are in C4 were invited to come to the governor's mansion for a social, so I missed that.
It was all guys.
Right.
What does that mean?
Right. The other thing I was going to mention, it's been interesting working on the county budget committee. It's very intensive, like full days. But one presentation that was made to us last week was that some of the counties and cities are adopting what they call budget policy. So they've got like a 8 or 10 page document about how the budget is formed based on various policy decisions. So I'm getting some of those copies to see if it would be of any use to us or not.
Great.
And that's all I have.
The Canby Ferry come up at all?
Pardon?
The Canby Ferry, did that come up at all in your meetings?
No?
Okay.
No?
Counselor Hamlin.
I was not at the Oregon Trail School District Board meeting, but you may have noticed that I have some pink hair, and it's Mohawk. Our student government at the college had their voting for their student government elections. They normally don't reach over 300 votes, and so they wanted to make a deal with me, so we made a bet that if they reached 1,000, I'd get a Mohawk, and if they reached 1,500, it would be dyed pink. So they got 1,564 votes, second highest behind 1979 when they received over 1,700 votes. So awesome show of engagement with the students, and so that is why I have a pink Mohawk. One other piece. No, I'll take their word. I'll take their word. They worked on it until 11 o'clock, and it's a 3-day voting period too. So they did a lot of work in just a couple short days. So we were really proud of what they did. I got my hair cut and dyed actually at the cosmetology program as well too, and we highlighted their program. So I'm on social media a little bit right now. So my big non-real super not exciting social media life.
Tattoos and it's just
Never
all going
know.
downhill.
You never know. One thing I did want to mention, I'm in communication with the Sandy High School. We had a meeting representing the college with Sandy High School around graduates of Sandy High School and their attendance and performance at Mount Hood Community College. And so I actually got some pretty interesting data. We're going to be sharing that with the high school here shortly, and actually looking kind of at how long after a student graduates Sandy High School until they come to the college. And so our longest tenure to come into college is graduate from 1973 that's currently attending. And just for, I think most of you know, but we have about 2,000 students who have graduated Mount Hood Community College from Sandy High School as well too. So there's out of our small community, there's quite a decent percentage. We're also going to be working with the Sandy Post and see if we can get graduate names posted in the posted in the post this year as well too, to kind of recognize the accomplishments of the students that have graduated from this community. So that's it.
That's awesome. Counselor Smollett.
Yeah. The Parks met last week. I was unable to attend because I had some work going on at my house and I was unable to leave. But they're moving forward with their master plan and getting busy on that. A couple things of note that you may not be aware of. Both the bridges at Dodge Park and Bull Run have exceeded their life. And so the county is looking at them, whether they're going to spend the $10 million that's going to take for each bridge to either replace or continue to do repairs on them. But the bridge that goes to Bull Run, which heads over toward Ames is gonna be closed for 3 weeks, in June. So that's going to affect some public safety service going that direction from Sandy, as well as the county,
How far does the territory of Sandy Fire go towards Corbett? then?
almost to Ames.
Almost to Ames.
Yeah. Yeah, and we do mutual aid with Corbett, but also affect Clackamas County Sheriff's responding that way, so everything will have to come from Multnomah County. But anyway, so that'll be closed, and I don't know if you guys know this, but both of those bridges date back to the 1890s.
Yeah.
They were brought out here from Portland, and just have gotten old. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Counselor Petzl.
All right. Well, I'll start off with we met Carl, Stanley, and Jordan and David on the Economic Development Committee group. I picked the day. I picked the wrong day because they were all excited about the Blazer game. So we'll not do it on the same day as the Blazer game next time. But
I don't think you're going to be running into that.
Score's not good.
So haven't scheduled the second one until we. But anyways, we did get a kickoff going on that. Just to let you know about that. We haven't had a real city council meeting since the big tech conference that happened up at called ACPE up at Welch's there, and so there was about 500 to 600 this year of people there that came from all over Washington and Oregon, all the tech directors and engineers and people there that can only happen because of SandyNet and that. And so the majority of those all passed down through. In fact, a lot of people, it sells out up there. There's not a place to rent or anything. So they're renting here in Sandy at the hotel or even down in Gresham to come up to that event. So so got a lot of comments there from people about our great town. So let's see. This last weekend, last Thursday, I drove over to McCall, Idaho. It's a long drive, where I was able to be on a panel and speak. It actually ended up being a couple-day meetings with Next Century Cities for a bunch of elected officials in McCall, but not just McCall, but the whole area down, the counties that came down through there. And they had a lot of representatives from the state legislation was up there and people there about internet and connectivity and what Sandy's done. And I have to say, through all the different presentations, you know, I sat in the front row. I always sit in the front row, but but the comments and constant Sandy, and even from other cities comparing, and Sandy being number one in price, and everyone's trying to beat us in price for in that and the value there. And so of course they presented next slide that they beat us in price now, but either that, but the point being is that we are represented across the nation as the city to compare ourselves with in so many. And so the other city that was there from Idaho doing the same thing, they were hoping to get 300 homes on by September, and you know, and here we have over 70% take rate in our community, and so we are just I'm very popular at these things. People want to talk to and find out how we did it and the pitfalls and those type of things. So we're just really makes me come back. Really excited about where I live, because while I was there, I couldn't do anything because the internet was so stinking slow, and even cell phone data couldn't even get emails to come in and out, right? And it just that's where we could have been. So curiosity. Oh, and then this Thursday, I'm actually chairing the OBAC, Oregon Broadband Advisory Council. I'm the vice chair, but the chair will be out, and so we'll be hearing from the city of Hillsborough, who's doing their fiber project as well. And so I'll be chairing that on. That's one reason why I can't go on the things. I'll be down there doing that. And then curiosity. I was hoping that Kelly was here, but the Vista Loop South, or what we used to call Vista Loop South development, which isn't in play, is there. I see a lot of movement of blackberry bushes and clearing out that whole development here, and didn't know if that had been a getting ready for development or.
It's solar panels, I believe.
That's farther
That's
up
the
by.
other side,
That's
okay.
way up the road a little bit
That's
by
county
Shorty's
stuff
Corner.
going on.
This one's just right across from the Vista Housing directly across the highway there. It used to be called Vista Loop South Development. It never got developed, but they have the tractors out where the park would be for Deer Point, as they're rolling down all the blackberry bushes and everything in that whole development. So obviously,
Exciting times it is.
We've had a couple of programs on that site, and somebody is doing some survey work.
okay, thank you. So that's good. And then reading through the staff reports and going through it, and I came across the one about SDCs for outdoor seating, and just was kind of like, what? So, and then hearing that Gresham and Happy Valley and Canby and SDC don't charge for SDCs on that, and I just think maybe we should bring that up as a topic in the future, because we only have the sun for like 2 weeks of the year, and it'd be really nice to be able to use, these nice days to be able to sit outside and not, I think we need to resolve that issue there.
I
think
noticed
it's
that as well, wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, it's about livability here in Sandy, and that's for the residents that live here too. So obviously we don't have year-round outdoor seating because, it just rains a lot. So I think the few times a year that
We should encourage it.
so we should encourage those opportunities and whatever other impediments that may be there for some. So I know that's what's in there now. I think that we should bring it up and look at what it could be. So.
Great, thank you. For me, just a couple items. We have C4 retreat coming up here in June. Kind of the hot button issues there's with Metro Housing Bond, which doesn't affect us as much, but they have set aside some funds because they're going to have more money for housing. They're going to allocate more funds for some of us rural communities. There is some talk of the Clackamas County Sandy being the first of an investment for Clackamas County and some housing that will be coming here, so that's exciting. We'll also be talking about the vehicle registration fee. There's that strategic fund that's being established that really the C4 committee will be responsible for allocating those funds and the projects for that. We're looking at probably about $1 million a year, a budget, to be able to do that. There is a repeal effort, or at least an effort to put it on the ballot where they're collecting signatures, so we're not quite sure what's going to happen with that vehicle registration fee yet. I'm not sure, Jordan, I'm not sure what the deadline is for them to submit that to get on the ballot.
It's coming up.
I feel like it should be like this
Yeah.
week or next. That will. No. And then the other thing is we just did a county-wide housing assessment. Sandy was part of that, but we had just recently done our housing assessment, so we're not a major part, but there will be some findings, and that's always nice to know what our housing availability is as you kind of go through the scale of different prices of homes and stuff. Mountain Festival, as you may have heard over the last couple of weeks, made the announcement of the return of the carnival, which me and my kids are very excited about for sure. I just point out that was, as talked about kind of in the article that was in the Sandy Post, that's a real collaborative effort between property owners and the Leathers family, as well as the Ant Farm, the Mountain Festival Committee, and then our city plays a big role because a lot of the equipment stuff gets stored over at what we know as the Sandy Community Campus. So just thank you to city staff to help make that happen, and for all the work that we put in during that time of year for the Mountain Festival. Carnival's a big part of that, so very exciting. This Wednesday, Councilor Smallwood and I will be making a trip out to Salem and touching base with Anna Williams and Chuck Thompson. A lot of you know we have a budget note for our wastewater treatment programs, and we're looking to get an update on kind of where we are in that process. Also going to be making the request, you may remember I talked to a lot of you on the ODOT STIP list and some of the items that were left off. We talked about kind of there in boring on where 211 and 212 and 26 interchange comes. So that's about a $250,000 project, and asked both of them to kind of make a phone call to ODOT to try to push that up on their priority list. So those are the big items we'll be asking them about. And then May 22nd, there's a luncheon that our own David Snyder, Economic Development Manager, will be participating in with the Chamber. That's this Wednesday. How to get a grant in Clackamas County. Is that at Ant Farm, Chris? What's the location?
No, it's Fire Annex. Our luncheon's always at the Fire Annex.
Okay, it's at the Fire Annex at 11:30 noon?
Yes.
11:30.
And if anybody wants to go, I need to know tonight.
Okay.
Because our cutoff for food was on Friday, but I can still get people in.
Okay, so let's make sure we let her know. Plan on.
If you want food.
attending.
You know,
If you want food.
That's, yeah.
Okay. And the chalk art program, I was just gonna bring it up. My 8-year-old Lucy came home all excited about participating, her class participating in the chalk art project and about all the different, reasons for doing it. So that's good. Thanks for your leadership on that, Carl. And then I had this request, actually I got an email as we stepped out between our work session and here is, do we have any charging stations for electric cars in San Diego? Fred Meyer's?
Fred Meyer's, Is that it? Walgreens.
Oh, Walgreens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, although when I did it, I had an electric car for a while and had little troubles with the credit card thing, but those two
Okay.
places.
We've talked about grants and having something here years past, but
Here at City Hall,
yeah.
for when you go in to get that Joe's Donut, you can.
Actually,
charge.
I mean, years ago, Mike might remember, but it was back when Scott was
Tesla
here.
has
so.
grants for those.
Do they?
Yeah, I think so.
Final is, you have this in front of all your chairs here. We've got save the date for the annual League of Oregon Cities Conference, September 26th to the 28th in Bend. I haven't been to one of these, but I've talked to both Councilor Peatzold, Hamlin. It's a pretty good event that kind of gives everybody a little extra.
Guess I didn't get invited.
I didn't either.
Oh, really?
You're the only one?
I didn't pass them out.
I got
Have
one.
fun.
Oh, no, I'm just.
You didn't have mine.
Just being funny.
Well, it's always during the first week of the term.
I know, it's always a hard time.
It's
Yeah.
never a good
Yeah.
time for
So
it.
Carl and I went last year. I thought it was good.
Yeah. Good.
There's
Yeah.
several things that going to Bend makes it a good thing to be there this time. And I know Councilor Lee sent out a note earlier, I think everybody got, about how much Redmond is doing their same sort of thing with their pool and such. And might be a good idea to kind of tie with them and see what they have. And
You do a little mini
walkthrough.
tour through it.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Especially if their bond passes on the 21st.
You should know by the time
Yeah.
you get there, yeah.
Jordan, were you looking at for us, or have somebody on your
What were
team?
the dates on that?
Well,
We can, yeah.
September
They
26th through the
did it as
28th.
part of LOC last time, so
Did
we
they?
actually did a
Right.
Redmond tour,
Oh.
Sure, they'll
yeah,
have one.
scheduled
Part of
Redmond
it.
tour,
Oh,
so
okay.
sometimes they'll do that
Okay.
for you.
We'd sure like to get a chance to look at that.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Matters.
All right, that's my report. Obviously, we had our staff reports, great. There, you'll see the budget committee meeting agenda, not agendas, the minutes are listed under monthly reports. Our body's not meeting to approve those, but see those for reference. With that, stick around for our executive session, but I will adjourn our council meeting.
We've got about 3 minutes.
Yeah, let's give it.